Okay. I think we'll just wait for everybody to connect. We've got a few guys coming through on the waiting room. I'll just give it a few seconds. For those of you who have joined, good morning. Good morning to everybody. Welcome. I've just got a few more guys coming in. If you could bear with us. Okay, I'm just going to give it another 30 seconds, everybody, and then we'll kick off. Morning to some familiar faces so far. Alicia, good morning. Mandy, some Fatima, good morning. Some familiar faces. I think we are almost there. Okay, I have muted everybody who's got one or two connecting. Okay. Okay, alrighty, guys. I think we are just about ready to start. As I say, a couple of people connecting still. I know it takes a while for the audio to get going, for the cameras to come right, and all of that. But I think we're going to kick off. So, good morning, everybody, to what is AAVEA's first ever live chat. If you are unfamiliar with a live chat, it's basically a webinar, but you guys keep your cameras on, so I get to see you as well. You don't have to just stare at my boring face. If you don't know me, my name is Johnny. I'm one of the board members for AAVEA. I also work for a company called Happy Snappy. And I'm going to try my best to be your host this morning. If I do stutter and fall over and pass out, then please just give me a few minutes. I'll come back to you. But yeah, welcome again. This is a very, very cool time for us. We've been thinking of doing something like this for a while, and we're really chuffed we can finally pull it off. Hopefully it goes well. And yeah, I think this seems to be the new normal. I'm really getting used to the Zoom. Hopefully you guys are a little bit more comfortable than I am. But yeah, once again, welcome. The theme of today, really, with these live chats is for us as an industry, attractions, visitor experiences to come together and share ideas, get to know each other a little better, and hopefully learn from each other and come up with some collaboration along the way. So I'm joined by some really cool people with me. I've got Sabine, our founder and chair of AAVEA, Taniko, who is also the executive marketing head of DNA, as well as Manny Roth from IAAPA, who is the also head of operations over in Brussels. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining me. And of course, the awesome team behind the scenes who help power AAVEA. So yeah, we are going to get a little bit started, but I guess some house rules. Keep your cameras on. We do really want to see you. Don't worry about the kids and the barking dogs in the background. We'll mute you. But we do love children. Let them come and see what we're up to as well. There are some panels on the side for comments and questions, so feel free to keep those going throughout. My colleagues are in the background crunching away all the questions, and we will try our best to answer all of them. So don't be shy. And don't turn your camera off, please. It's good to see you. I've worn my best shirt today. I may have even ironed it. So please don't be shy to turn the camera on. Cool. So I think before we go too much further, I've got a sneaky little poll I wanted to share with you guys, and just really give you 10 seconds to answer it. It's going to pop up on your screen in a few seconds, and it's really about if you are ready to open as an attraction, if we get the green light from our wonderful president. So go ahead. That should be live on your screen. I'll give you a few seconds to answer that one. So just hit yes or no. Okay, give it a few more seconds. Right, okay. I am going to, just out of interest, I'll share those results with you. If anybody had to open in 30 days, would you be ready? It seems that most people are quite ready. 71% of us are ready to roll. Good for you. Maybe you can help me, because I'm definitely not ready. I still don't know how many times a day to sanitize or which mask to wear. Okay, thanks for that, guys. We'll use that maybe towards the end. Before I bore you guys to death, I want to introduce again Sabine, our founder and chair of wonderful AAVEA. I have the pleasure of working with her on the board, but also in the industry. So Sabine's just going to give us a quick intro to AAVEA, what we're up to, where we are as an industry, and what we can look forward to. Sabine, over to you.
Hello, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our very auspicious first occasion. We're copying our big brother, IAAPEA, the Global Attractions Association, and we've got two IAAPEA people with us. One is Manny. Hi, Manny. She's with IAAPEA in Brussels, and she actually joined us in January when we had the global the IAAPEA visit in South Africa. It feels like a lifetime ago where we could actually visit attractions. And then a special shout out to Karen Staley. She was the IAAPEA president for Europe and Middle East and was a fantastic supporter of AAVEA when it was in the form of Attractions Africa 6 years ago. We've come a long way since then. We're now an association of almost 50 members, having about oh gosh, I can't remember now. I think it was, help me guys, 19 million admissions in South Africa. I'll just look it up. Maybe someone can look it up for me on our little infographic. The situation at the moment is that we're all closed. We can go to the hairdresser, so we'll look good when we reopen, but currently we're all closed. And I know this is extremely painful for everybody, and it's been an extremely difficult time. Running a visitor attraction is a capital-intensive business. Most of our income comes from the front door. I mean, anything from 60% to 90%. So behind the scenes, I know you might not have heard much from us, but we've been working very hard on a number of things. So first of all, we worked very closely with the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. The first draft of the reopening protocols basically didn't include attractions, I'll be straight. Of course, we phoned straight away and lobbied that they make a special mention and note of that attractions run very differently to everything else for a number of reasons. First of all, at visitor attractions, again, if we could just open and get some feet through the door, a lot of us would be able to save some jobs and keep some of our aspects running for when the next normal starts again. Secondly, when people visit attractions, they tend to come in their, I call it their COVID clans, which is their family group or their close friends that they've arrived with anyway. And thirdly, at almost all visitor attractions, it's actually a move-through experience. So you're not actually standing stationary for very long with strangers. You're constantly moving through. And for this reason, we fought very hard and said attractions are definitely part of the tourism industry, but should be considered with special dispensations because we have other security and safety measures in place. And so I think that was very important. I'm pleased to say that in the draft protocols, our battles were won. And one of the big things is that the protocols are quite adamant that we take very long, detailed history of people's COVID risk factors. Which to my mind would take 10 or 15 minutes for any visitor to answer, you know, comorbidity factors, age factors, etc. And we managed to put in the document that the attractions where visitors stay for less than 3 hours, this is not required. Now, I know these are finalized drafts, but they haven't actually been yet released, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. The other thing we've been doing is we've been staying very close to IAAPEA EMEA, because they are a couple of weeks ahead of us. Many attractions in Europe are opening, and we can learn a lot from them. And I know Manny will tell us, and Karen from America will tell us a little bit about what it's like to reopen. The good news is there are feet through the door. The bad news is that the certainty that you think comes from opening doesn't exist. It's just it's not even a next normal yet, it's a new world. And I think it'll take a couple of months for any kind of next normal to be established. So at one of the IAAPEA live chats, which I interacted with them, they were all saying how they're busy reopening and everybody's completely confused. And my answer was, well, we're not confused because we're very much closed and it's very clear. And some of them said to me, well, enjoy the clarity while you've got it. So, you know, it's just a caution that it's a strange, dynamic, fast-moving, crazy world out there. The other good news that we've got to announce is that our very popular and one and only conference in Africa focused on the visitor experience and attractions industry, which always takes place in August, we are planning and wanting to do this in a virtual sphere, and we'll talk about it at the end of the live chat. But we were having to consider cancelling this because, as you can imagine, all our sponsors have tightened their budgets, and that's very difficult. And without any income, your 1,000 Rand membership fee is much appreciated, but unfortunately, it doesn't get us very far. So the good news is South African Tourism, and it's not public announcement yet, have agreed on a partnership with AAVEA. And this allows us to actually hold the conference this year, which is absolutely amazing news. And considering that South African Tourism has had a 30% cut in their funding, it's a real indication of the work that AAVEA has done over the past 5 years, that they have said, we understand that this industry is such an important part of tourism. We understand that the industry is very much based on domestic tourism. And I'm going to say finally, they didn't say that, but I'm saying that we finally understand the role that attractions have to play in this industry. So that's really good news. And the other bit of news I just wanted to add is that, as you know, we have been fighting very hard for many years to go back to the staggered school holiday system that occurred 4 years ago, where coastal and inland schools had a different start and end date. That meant it extended all of our peak periods in December. And it will be difficult to have that done this year because the school holidays are all over the place and have been reduced. But we have filtered that conversation back into TVCSA again. I fight very hard for this conversation. And what I saw, which was quite interesting, is that the United Nations World Tourism Organization has released a document to say this is a tool that tourism around the world can use to stimulate domestic tourism going forward post-COVID. So we need to keep that conversation going. So I've spoken long enough, and just to say thank you for joining us. 38 participants, it's amazing. We love you all. We're going to look forward to seeing you all, and we're all in this together. And yeah, let's hear your stories. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much, Sabine. Brilliant as always. And I know you've put in almost hundreds of hours behind the scenes into this advocacy. So well done, and thank you for all the hard work. It's not easy to change government's mind. So yeah, next up, I just wanted to again introduce Manny. You've heard a little bit about her over in IAAPA in Brussels. Just give us an insight into how Europe's doing. What are they up to? Are they open? Are they closed?
Hi. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Johnny, for your introduction and for having us. We are very honored and pleased to be here on that very first AAVEA Live Chat, so well done you. Well, I have been given 3 questions, and obviously I try not to talk too much on behalf of our members, but we have received plenty of feedback all around the world, and I obviously intend to share as much as I can. If you have any questions later, please drop a note in the live chat, and then we will answer that later, okay? So one of the first questions was, what has our global experience of reopening looked like? And I want to give you a little background on IAAPA overall. So IAAPA, as International Association for the Attractions Industry, has over 6,000 members around the world, and a plenitude of constituencies such as amusement parks and zoos and aquaria, water parks, indoor entertainment centers, which we call FECs, museums, etc., etc. So you see, IAAPA EMEA, which I'm based at, has 61 countries covered through membership, and this makes it quite difficult for me to summarize and generalize, because as Sabina has already mentioned, there is a variety of national laws and regulations and in place, and health authorities vary their measures from region to region. So already basic topics like social distancing rules vary between 1 meter and 2 meters, sometimes even 250 in our region, and sometimes masks are mandatory, sometimes they are not. So you see there's a lot of fluffy regulations floating around. And so exactly for that reason of flexibility, we split actually our work in IAAPA in 2 approaches. We launched our global IAAPA reopening guidance papers. I'm not sure whether you have seen them. You can download them on our website. I'm happy to share the link later. With the help of experts from Disney and Six Flags and Cedar Fair and Universal and medical experts and our safety committee and GR representatives. So we hope that this paper serves you as a guidance to establish your own company reopening protocols, because we think it's important that we all stay in touch, exchange and learn from each other. But clearly that guidance might not do it for you because your region might be different or has different approaches. But we hope it serves you as a helpful paper. So we also knew that this document can only serve as a guidance for all local lobbying measures which we need to get done. So thank you once more, Sabine. It's actually excellent news what you have achieved whilst fighting with your local authorities. So that is actually great, and that's what we need on all local levels. So the recent status in Europe is most of IAPA member facilities in Europe have reopened now when the situation and COVID-19 numbers or spread eased up. And the first reopenings happened actually from mid-May onwards. So it's still kind of recent, even though it feels like, I don't know, ages ago already. Zoos and city parks have nearly all opened now or reopened, but of course our members have missed out on the so much needed, usually huge Easter business. So that was a huge setback. Most of the amusement parks have reopened now across Europe as well. So some, unfortunately, with let's call it hiccups and strong lobbying involved to increase pressure on the national governments. Belgium, for example, is one of the late reopening countries in Europe and opens up on July 1st. UK is now set to open by July 4th, and Ireland has already opened because that was the instruction from government, and then the server crashed because they had so much demand, which was great. And we were happy, and then they were asked to close again, as the authorities call that a misunderstanding. So there you see, it's like all over the place and all confusing, but they are still waiting for the date of reopening and hope this to come today, actually. Denmark, for example, had the go to reopen, and then authorities made one exception and stopped fast rides for them to open because they said the wind would, despite the gap in between the ride cars, which they planned for, spread the virus if you sit behind each other. So there you see, it's a lot of challenges, a lot of talks to authorities, a lot of adjustment needed. And that's actually why we are so grateful to share that experience with you in order to stay close to your local authorities and just get a grip on those topics. Even the first FECs have now started to reopen again. So we received the very first feedback this morning actually from the last few days of reopening, and I'm happy to share that later. The recent status in Middle East, which also belongs to our region, is that nearly no attraction has reopened yet. But just yesterday, we received the confirmation that Dubai water parks are allowed to open now by Dubai municipality. So this came together with a set of precautionary measures, and we are curious to hear and dying to hear what their experience will be like. For Africa, we hope and cross our fingers that there will be soon at least an announcement made on when you can reopen so that you can start your planning actually going on. But I see you are more prepared, or I mean 71%. I mean, that's excellent news that you feel so prepared. That was unfortunately not the case for plenty of our people before we reopened. So well done on that measure. So some of the key lessons from reopening was, if I may summarize that from our members, most crucial is staying close to your local authorities. Be well connected to health authorities to be able to convince them that they can finally trust you again. Most companies have established their own protocols following local authorities' instructions. But your relationship to those authorities is really crucial. We clearly see that the best relation there has paid off. And yeah, I think it is an obvious thing to say the absolutely super important thing is build up trust again. I just spoke to this mentioned FEC member who reopened the day before yesterday, and she was very happy to see happy customers again, but she is still a little concerned with the demand side. Obviously, you need to slowly build up trust and then adjust your learning I don't know, share your learnings with your staff. And she says also that the key message from her when I asked her what her biggest challenge or learning was in the last couple of days, take care of your staff and they will take care of your customers. I think we often often hear that from leaders all around the world, but it's truly important to make your staff feel comfortable first, because they then will manage the crowds, whatever crowd means, perfectly well. And we all believe that's actually key to the success of reopening. And little side note on which we found interesting, actually, because people often don't think about that, but never underestimate your toilets handling. As many now strictly regulate their access to toilets and toilet entry procedures, some had to hire toilet wagons and Dixie toilets and stuff like that to be able to accommodate that. So people often don't think about the sanitary section of the park, because we all think about fun, but that's also keep that in mind. I feel that was a very good tip from other people. So now, what operational changes have we seen within our members, and have they worked? That I would like to share a few of operational changes out of the summaries and learnings we have received from our members, but clearly without prioritization. It's just I share them all, and you can then pick and choose what applies to you. So the good thing is that 90% of our attraction visitors are coming within their family or groups they live with, apparently, and then within the parks, obviously, they stay together. So this minimizes the risk of virus spread. And this is also the main argument we used in government relations to convince authorities to reopen and trust us again, because we say actually they all stay in between themselves, they are all together anyway, so the risk should be minimized. But obviously there is the 3 key words you all have heard and probably apply already since always. It's social distancing, sanitizers, and masks, right? Those are the 3 keywords. And on top of that, obviously a huge topic is entrance regulation. Some manage that through slow parking slot management, which means, as opposed to in the past where you try to fit in as many people into your parking slots and get the access quickly up and running, now they try to slow that down through staff in order to limit the access quantity or the access flow. I found that a very good idea. And obviously most or all of the facilities only allow ticketing to be happening via online pre-booking. So I'm not sure if you're set up for that yet, but that's what everybody is applying right now. So the last and biggest chunk of decision making for all of you, as much as it was for the members here in Europe and all over the world, is obviously reduced capacity planning. So many of our members have reduced and started with authorities together now with 1/3 or even 1/4, sometimes even less of their normal day visitor quantity, in order to get a grip and then learn from it and slightly increase when they feel more comfortable. And we felt that worked well, and that has paid off, because the trust is coming back and visitors feel at ease. At least that's the feedback we've received so far. But now, in terms of social distancing and rights management, the obviously biggest change is social distancing to be managed in the park area, right? So many have used signage and floor stickers to show the minimum distance requirement, and separate families and groups, which some of them call bubbles, from each other in rides by keeping 1 ride wagon free in between. Some even keep 2 ride wagons free in between. And most of them even hired more staff to manage that seating chart. So we feel that has paid off, and that worked well so far. Some use protection shields in between the cars. So like those plastic, transparent plastic shields. Our membership manager, Inyas, just yesterday visited Walibi, Belgium, to see behind the scenes of the reopening preparations for July 1st. And they, for example, plan to use in some parts of the park only one direction walking, which we found very interesting as well. So there is no possibility for 2-way street crossing of people. So that is a natural way of obviously limiting the risk of crossing people and crowd management. So then in terms of masks, I have to say it's all over the place. Some countries have no mask obligation, others make masks everywhere mandatory and public and including attractions. Others only while queuing or in crowded areas, and some only apply that in rides. So in Belgium, it's, for example, from 12 years onwards mandatory in parks, in amusement parks. And in the US, they say this topic is all over the place and not even regulated by state, but rather by county, which we also found like happening all across the AAVEA region. There is plenty of ideas of how to handle that correctly. For our FEC person this morning, she said they are not applying any masks because the government says for children, they can actually run around and cross each other without any issues. So it was interesting to hear as well. But overall, you can say that mask rules are mostly depending on the facility type and the level the country was affected by COVID-19 numbers. In terms of temperature checks, mostly they say yes for staff, but no for visitors. So that's down to you. You know your country security level best to judge upon that. In terms of ticketing and F&B, all seems to be pretty much digitized right now, as briefly mentioned beforehand. So only online pre-booking of tickets is allowed. Plenty of facilities have tried to switch not only their entrance ticketing to online booking in order to allow for digital pre-planning and access control, but also for F&B orders where possible, which we find is obviously kind of expensive. So I'm not sure whether you can match those needs, but that would obviously be the most ideal to have in place. Then, in terms of annual passes, we found that very interesting. There's a variety of approaches. I'm not sure whether you have annual passes to bind for customer binding, but some facilities stopped selling them overall to have a better access control. Some facilities give special benefits, such as early access before reopening to give them a little goodie on top of it. And some put restrictions on annual pass usage. So such as Europa Park in Germany, for example, they allow annual pass holders for only one visit per month to control the masses and the crowds better. So, but on the other hand, they then prolong the validity of the pass, which is then a nice compensation. So, but obviously there's plenty of approaches which I hope you find helpful for your reopenings. In terms of restaurants, obviously, it's all reduced quantities for those restaurants who are allowed to open. Pre-booking is necessary, so make your reservation and then paying by app where possible. In operations, what they do, for example, they avoid those cutlery boxes which you have standing around to pick your own fork and knife, and serve everything plated on the table. There's no buffets and no self-service in order to avoid any risk there. Brilliant. In terms of education, they say transparency and education is key. So that is what most say. Many mentioned very beautiful elements of educating their guests. For example, if you tell a child that they need to stay 1.5 meters apart from each other, it might be hard for them to understand because it's still a child, right? But if you use any fun ways of educating them, like having a video clip at the entrance whilst they queue and wait, which shows them that you need to have a distance as big as a panda bear, that, or if you have like floor stickers, or some of them use like mascots in order to say this mascot size needs to be in between yourself, or footsteps marked on the floor. Children love to follow these instructions when they are fun, and sometimes they even help educating the accompanying adults. So there's plenty of ways to guarantee that this level of education is fun. And last but not least, and that is what everybody points out again and all over again, your staff. So what we constantly hear, the focus should be on staff training, on making them feel comfortable, making them feel proud of that company you're working in or they are working in. And some of them even offer online staff training now in preparation of the reopening. And others invited the staff to a training camp to get their facility quickly up to speed. And some others offered a family day in the park before reopening, which we find kind of nice, because they could then experience again the joy why they were at the first place starting to work in that industry. And it's important to build up that trust and show them also what the facility has been coming up with as a social distancing measurement. So I think there's plenty of ideas in order to get your staff more involved and confident to manage, then to pass on that message actually to your guests and happy visitors. There have also been a few challenges. We are not receiving many challenges outspoken or officially, because obviously everybody is still, I don't know, cautious to not have that spread and create insecurities towards the authorities. But social media is actually, the social media management is always what is a little bit to be seen as a cautious point. Queuing outside of the facilities seems to have been spreading a little bit in the nerd community. So once the visitors entered the park or the facilities, it seems to be well managed and a lot of trust going on. But you might have seen on social media the queuing pictures from Universal or from Efteling or even from Europa Park, where people said like, well, obviously they don't keep that much distance. Yeah. So what we can say to that is you can only encourage your visitors to use their own brain also, because everybody needs to be responsible for social distancing and not only a venue, right? And yeah, but in order to wrap that up, actually everybody wants to reopen, and we all understand it's important for the moods and lift the spirits. But for some, it's particularly hard under the circumstances, because for small facilities it might be easier to reduce capacity. That seems to be rather feasible. But for a large museum, for example, there is a high risk that the fixed costs will not even be covered by the foreseen reduced visitor ticket quantity by the authorities. So unfortunately for some of them, it doesn't even make sense to reopen this year, and purely for efficiency and input-output ratio reasons, they need to stay closed. So sometimes that's also a wise business decision. It doesn't make sense for all of them to open with 1/4 of what they usually...
I think you've actually answered my question there, Manny. Sorry. I was just about to ask you if some of the guys, given the opportunity to open, had opened or closed. So I think you took away my question there. Because it seems, you know, over in Asia, I've heard a little bit about it, just reading some of the articles. People give the green light to go, and then a week later close up because it's just not profitable. But I think you've given us such a mountain of information there. It's just incredible. Thank you very much. I may need to watch this video 4 or 5 times and make notes again, because that is just, I just think there's so much for us to learn there. I wouldn't even know where to start. And just reading some of the way people are coming up with creative solutions. I read a cool article yesterday over in the States of how they're monetizing each area of a park to making them sort of walk around. It's mind-blowing how creative people are becoming, you know, and how to solve these problems. So thank you very much for your feedback. I think we may need to get you back again. You're an absolute star. So I don't know, I'm sure there's a couple of questions coming through for you, but it's a minefield. But again, a lot has been written, and just to echo what you were saying about, you know, your frontline staff. It's a nervous time for everyone. So the guys really at the entrance welcoming people need to try and demystify the mask thing, need to try and take away that real front of someone standing there with their mouth covered. And I read a cool thing of actually taking a picture of your staff member and pinning it to their shirt so that you can see what they look like with their mask on or with their mask off. So there's some real cool creative solutions there. So really, again, Manny, thanks so much. Now we're gonna shoot straight across to Nico, who is the executive head of marketing at the V&A Waterfront. So they, I think for all her sins, she's got about a handful of attractions to manage, a whole lot of different things to manage. So she's, I'm sure, a very, very busy lady. Nico, if you could give us a background on how we build this trust that Manny was talking about, and how we partner with local authorities. How do you guys do it, or how do you do it?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Johnny, for including me to be part of this conversation. As Johnny mentioned, my name is Nico. I look after marketing for the V&A Waterfront, and I guess the exception of the waterfront is that we're an entity in and of ourselves, but we are comprised of we are the sum of the parts as well as being the part. I don't know if that even makes sense. And as I was reflecting on what I wanted to share today, I just wanted to preface by saying that, you know, if there's one thing that certainly me and my team have learned, is that there are no one really has the answers. There is just still so much uncertainty. And I think Sabina alluded to it earlier, that even in reopening, we cannot assume that things will kind of default and fall back into place. There's still a lot of, there's still a journey. And if anything, what strikes me about everything that's happening is that actually reopening is a journey that happens long before you actually open the doors. And for us, from a waterfront perspective, we didn't fully shut down. We still had 2 or 3 tenants operating at the time because they were deemed essential services. And certainly for marketing, those who weren't part of the marketing team felt, well, now that the business is effectively kind of just offering essential services, what is there to market, really? And I think we landed up in a place where we challenged that notion, because when it comes to trust and confidence of your brand and your offering and your proposition, it's an always on journey. It's a narrative and a storyline that you keep telling, irrespective of whether the physical functional thing that you're selling, like your key value proposition, is still available for people to enjoy. So what I'm sharing with you, I'm by no means the oracle. And last night, as I was thinking about this conversation, I thought about how, you know, our learnings, the key takeouts that we've had in the last 10 to 12 weeks have shifted and changed and evolved, and we've made trade-offs and we've tested. And so what I'm sharing is really just our 10 to 12 weeks of key takeouts, which probably by next week will be out the window, and certainly as early as the president's last address, is some of the stuff may no longer be relevant. And the big thing for me is these are learnings that are may look on the face of it like concepts that are contradictory, but are actually nuanced. The first big thing for us was pivoting with purpose. And I know this concept of pivoting is something that it's a buzzword at the moment. Businesses are pivoting, and perhaps for a lot of businesses and a lot of brands, the first response or reaction is, does that mean I need to literally change my operating model? And from a waterfront perspective, we were very clear in our why. We've been on a journey of really articulating why the V&A exists. At a functional level, people see us as like a property development company. Some see us as a retail development business primarily, but those are functional propositions that we offer, but don't really articulate the core of what makes the V&A quite different. And we see ourselves as a neighborhood within the city of Cape Town, and one that can actually enable businesses, especially small businesses, and enable people's dreams, and be a space and a safe place for people to be their best selves. And using that as the core of why the V&A exists gave us enough inspiration to be able to consistently communicate even throughout lockdown, and to do so without relying or defaulting on the functional stuff. Yes, the shops are closed. Yes, the offices are closed. Yes, people are locked up in their apartments at the waterfront. But we were still able to continue a conversation with the public because we see ourselves as so much more than just the functional. The pivoting aspect of it is about being rooted in the core of who you are while still being adaptable. And one of the ways we've tried to do that is by seeing ourselves as more than just a landlord with a transactional kind of cold tenant-landlord relationship, and seeing ourselves as an enabler for the businesses in our neighborhood. So one of the things we've just recently gone live with is an SMME hub, and it comprises of a number of different components, including rent relief for our small local businesses. It includes access to a number of resources that live front and center on our website, like tips and tricks for grant funding. There's an SMME help desk that we've set up with access to people acknowledging who have enough knowledge in the small business landscape and are able to provide small businesses with the support, especially at this time. So we've been able to still consistently pivot, but stay consistent. So that's been the one big learning for us. I think another ubiquitous example that's been doing the round is how Granadilla Swimwear pivoted their business to offer a food delivery service, like an organic food delivery service. I mean, that's pretty incredible, but they haven't lost the essence of who they are. To go from selling swim trunks, like cool, very cool swim trunks, maybe a little bit overpriced, but nice swim trunks, to offering a food delivery service is pretty cool. And I don't think any one of us ever thought, why are they doing that? That seems so odd, you know? It almost felt right. So that's, lesson number one. I know I was also given questions, by the way, but I never follow the brief. I'm so sorry, Journey. Stop me. Okay. All right. The second thing is another one of those on the face of it contradictory things, but it's actually like nuanced. And the thing that we've learned is planning is essential, but be agile and be flexible. So for us, early on before lockdown, we had like, you know, you do like a marketing plan and you're like ready to go, you know, we'll do events, we'll have this, we'll have that. And then the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, said, sorry, shut it down, people. And I guess on the face of it, it would be like, oh, well, there's no more plan, it's out the window. But, and honestly, kudos to my team, because they were so quick off the mark. We quickly took the essence of the plan and looked for other ways of bringing it to life that weren't constrained by the guardrails of lockdown. An example of that is an initiative we did, which was we wanted to do an Easter thing on the property where obviously it's school holidays, kids are coming, we do an Easter egg hunt. So we decided, okay, actually, let's just take the Easter egg hunt online. So we did a virtual Easter egg hunt, which was pretty cool. That's just one way of planning, but being agile. Another way of planning and agility is an initiative that we've done called that we're currently testing, which is called Artist Alliance. We have all these buskers on our property that are performing. They add to the vibe of what makes the waterfront what it is. And this alliance is about supporting them by providing a stipend. We use them in our online concert series called Goodnight Fridays, and they performed live online. So the spirit and the energy of the waterfront still continued, but in a virtual sense. So that's the whole thing about planning and agility, is plan for, I don't know, 80% of your activity, but stay flexible and I guess consider the context. The third thing that we've learned is the power of collaboration, and but still staying true to what makes you unique. And I think especially right now in this particular time, where a lot of businesses are feeling probably very isolated, and business owners and attractions like ourselves are feeling quite isolated and alone, there's really power in partnerships. And that's why these kind of contexts and these kind of conversations are important, because that's when you can connect the dots. We had a webinar yesterday for one of our projects called 100 Beautiful Things. And the conversation evolved to the power of partnerships and collaboration in the design context. And we've seen it come into play by working together with our tenants to still keep the waterfront going and ensure that the waterfront plays a part in recovery. We've partnered with our food and beverage tenants to offer a food relief service, like a wet food relief project, where our restaurants are cooking food from their kitchens in support of Ladles of Love. That's a collaboration between food and beverage tenants that never happened before. Never happened before, where we've literally got 10 restaurants cooking up a storm for a good social cause within the precinct. That's the power of collaboration. And that's where part of that trust effort comes in. So how do you stay true to who you are while still working with the collective, especially in very lonely, challenging times, to deliver something to the public that's a bit unexpected? Then I think, Manny, you spoke about this in great detail, but take your team along for the journey. Like literally take your team along for the journey, set them up for success, and most importantly, look at them as a whole person, because the anxiety that your visitors are feeling, it's very likely that your staff is feeling too. So for us, what we did almost within a few days before full lockdown, we didn't have it before. It seems like a no-brainer now, but anyway, it was pretty like groundbreaking for us. We set up a WhatsApp group for all staff, and over the last 12 weeks, we've been consistently sending updates, videos from our CEOs. Our Exco team speaks on the videos, giving us just some clarity or a sense of what's happening in the world. But we've balanced out that content with also more emotional stuff. So like more fun type of things that appeal to staff as human beings and not as robots, but also providing like the functional information that enables them to better take care of themselves, their families, so that they can better provide an experience for the people who come and visit. It's like a series, like a domino effect. So the functional components of wear your mask, sanitize, make sure you do this, that, and the next thing is critical and important in rebuilding trust. But let us not forget that we are all ultimately human beings. So taking staff along for the journey and remembering that they have their own anxieties around this has been a big win for us, I think. Or, well, I mean, we are still reopening, but I think we've set ourselves up to continue that conversation with staff. And then the last thing I want to talk to is innovate, but sometimes it's all about the brilliant basics. Like have an innovative problem-solving, creative problem-solving mindset, but like brilliant basics is what's probably going to also rebuild the trust. I love that example of yes, you've got your mask, social distance, physical distancing, but are your toilets clean? That's like a brilliant basics, right? Sometimes it's just about going back to brilliant basics and that balancing act between creating a safe, hygienic space that makes people feel like their concerns around safety and hygiene are addressed, but also balancing that out with, like, people just want a sense of normality as well, and bringing back some of those things that made you famous and made you successful in the past is part of the brilliant basics. So I guess that's it from me.
Oh, Taniko, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so much. You really are phenomenal. If I could give you a high five, I would, but thank you so much. You really are an absolute gem in the industry. And I think it's no secret why the waterfront is doing so well. So well done to you and the team. And I really like the brilliant basics. I made a couple of notes here, and reopening is a journey. I work solely in operations, so you point me in one direction and I go in that direction, and usually pretty inflexible. But I think keeping in mind that reopening is a journey and things change is a phenomenal phrase. I'll put that up above my bed. Thank you so much. So I think I wanted to kind of shift a little bit quickly. I'm running out of time, but into something that's quite sensitive, I think, in South Africa, is like pricing at the moment. And I think we all kind of not sure, should we go discount? Let's attract people. I mean, I love a discount, but I can imagine as an attraction manager or leader, discounting, you're losing money. And if you're only allowed 30% of the people, you're going to lose even more. So there is someone, I think it's Karen Staley. I haven't met you before, but I thought it would be really cool if we could just, I think it's probably really early where you are, but if you could maybe give us an idea on your thoughts on pricing.
Oh, great. Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon. Oh, no, it's morning for everyone. It's very early morning for me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we've had lots of discussions. I worked for IAAPA for many years, as Sabina mentioned, and now I'm consulting and on my own in the industry, but participating in as much as I can on the experiences of reopening and what parks are seeing, as well as FECs. And what we're seeing is that, first of all, and I'm speaking from the perspective of North America, that people are just super excited to be able to leave their homes and go somewhere and have a social experience together as a unit. So parks are slowly opening. I think we have 60 to 70 parks now opening and functioning. I think the East Coast has opened a little sooner than the West Coast will, but we see now in July that California will open as well. With lots of social distancing and challenges with entering the parks and so on. But to get right to the point on pricing, there have been very few, if none, that I can think of groups discounting ticketing. They're actually finding that challenge is they have to turn people away. And of course, we live in different economic and social areas, and that has a huge impact. But in general terms, what people are doing is they are pivoting and they're going back to brilliant basics. And sorry to take all of your cute little phraseology, but it is true that if you are walking into a park today, I got a text from someone at Universal yesterday, the most popular new ride, Hagrid's ride, no line, no line. So what parks are doing, instead of discounting, is they are heavily communicating the special experience you are having today in your attraction. So if you come in and we have limited capacity, that means that you have access to things with no lines. They're also setting up special types of experiences with characters, or eating experiences with characters, or show experiences. And because of that special, unique experience you're having without all the crowds, they are not discounting. And in fact, they're trying to find ways to generate greater revenue per cap for their off of their guests because of this special experience. And so that's what I kind of tried to tell you, is that if you are opening up and you are dedicating your time and effort to give the greatest experience you can within the regulations that you have been given by your local government or country, you have the obligation to your business and to your staff to ensure that you do the very best you can. That I would not step into a discount pricing scenario. I also find you, and Sabina, I see you nodding. It is such a dangerous path to walk back from. Once you're down there, you cannot get back. And even if you begin to offer more and more, people will find a reason why you shouldn't charge your standard pricing. So I would highly recommend that you highlight, and I know that we haven't talked about it, but communication has to be the number one most effective way of reaching your guests and reaching your staff and creating the best experience. So if you communicate in advance the expectations of what you will get when you come into the park, and you give everything you have to giving the best experience through your staff to the guest, charge your price. Charge your price. You have to, a lot of people are not opening because they won't make a profit. And I have been encouraging parks, just open, even if you break even if you lose a little money, because your commitment to the community and your commitment to your loyal guests is so important right now, that if you don't open in some capacity, you're going to find yourselves falling short of getting those people back in the coming season. They will find other avenues to experience a good time, and it will be more difficult for you to wrangle them back up next March and bring them back in, because maybe they've bought a season pass or have decided to try a new experience, which has pulled them away and said, oh, well, we don't have to go there, we can go here now. So it's really dangerous to look at it just from a profit standpoint. I know as a business owner, it's, you know, that's super important. But as we all know, these are very unusual times, and there are unique and creative ways to find funding and to do the best you can with what you have to at least open up and see your loyal customers. But just to circle back, I would not promote discounting. Like any business that is reopening in times where things are unusual, it will take a little time to get the capacity back of your customers. But I do think the customers that are going to come are going to be the loyal ones. They're the ones that expect to pay you what you need to be paid. And they may even be the ones who spend a little bit more because they feel so dedicated to your service of opening and giving them an opportunity to get out of the house and do something really nice.
Awesome. Karen, thank you so much. That's brilliant. Such good advice for us who are waiting in the wings to open. I also agree with you. I don't think discounting is necessarily fair. You know, we all offer a phenomenal experience. Why should, you know, I know we're in economic challenges, you know, we've got challenging times, but we all have a phenomenal attraction, and devaluing it seems wrong. You know, going up to the aquarium or going up Table Mountain or going to a zoo in this country is an awesome experience. Why make it cheaper? So a tricky one. Luckily, I don't manage an attraction, so I can leave it in everybody else's capable hands. But yeah, guys, we've gone way over time. I guess a couple of questions. Anybody got any questions they want to fire across? You're welcome to put in the comments. You can raise your hand. I'll unmute you. Fire away. We'll give it a couple of seconds if anybody's interested. Everybody's brave enough. Anybody? I can't really see anybody yet. No? No? Okay. Sabine, I know you probably have to leave us shortly, but just to touch on again, we've got our conference coming up in August. It is a virtual format this year. Really, really cool format. We have some of the most incredible speakers I've ever had the privilege, or will have the privilege of listening to. People like Joe Pine. So please go and check on our website. I think there's a little bit more info up there on exactly who's where and what. It is really going to be phenomenal. We've put a lot of time and effort into it. I know Sabine's been doing a lot of work there, as well as the other board members. So please, yeah, go and check it out. And really, I think that's really it from me. You're welcome to send us a couple of emails. I think you've got our details if you have any other questions. But I do want to run one last poll quickly, if I could, just to find out if you want to do this again. So have a look at your screen and tick which one you think would be your best, please. Okay, I'll give another 5 seconds. Cool. Okay. Excellent. How often? So it's every second day then. Thanks so much for voting. No, I'm just joking. No, but monthly seems to be the most popular. I'll end it there. I think we'll try and do it monthly. We'd really love seeing everybody, and I think us as a community, as an industry, we have to kind of get together and do this more often. But I think, guys, please, don't be shy to ask a couple of questions. But yeah. Thanks again to absolutely everybody who joined. Thanks again to the AAVEA board, to Manny, and to Nico and Sabine and Karen as well. Have an awesome weekend, and here's to opening up soon. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye.